All right, today we are diving into something really fascinating and, frankly, pretty wild. It's an incredibly complex way of looking at the Quran, a view that sees the Holy Book not just as something to be read, but as a kind of coded system that needs to be unlocked. So let's get into what that actually means.
The central idea here is, well, it's pretty out there, to say the least. It's asking us to look at a sacred text and see the architecture of, believe it or not, a machine.
So here's the question we're wrestling with. What if the Quran isn't just a book? What if it's designed to function like a digital computer? This whole theory suggests that there's a hidden mathematical and symbolic language woven right into its verses and chapters, just waiting for someone to finally decode it. Now, this quote from the source material really sets the stage. It makes the bold claim that the Quran is a numeric system. But, and this is key, it also predicts a huge conflict, basically saying that this interpretation is destined to be seen as controversial and that a lot of people are going to misunderstand it. Okay, so if the Quran is a computer, how do you even boot it up? What's the operating system? Well, according to this interpretation, the key is a concept they call the mizan, which means the balance. Let's take a look at how this thing is supposed to work. The mizan is the absolute foundation for this entire system. We're not just talking about a philosophical idea of balance here. Nope. It's a very specific, concrete structure built on 3 chapters that show up one right after the other in the Quran. These 3 are seen as the lock, the key, and the entire mechanism, all rolled into one. And here's a visual of that structure. Just picture a classic balance scale. On one side, in one pan, you've got chapter 26, the poets. You could think of this as representing creative, maybe even distracting or false speech. On the other side, you have chapter 28, the stories, which stands for historical lessons and concrete narratives. And right in the middle, holding it all together as the fulcrum, is chapter 27, the ant, which is seen as a symbol of perfect, meticulous, divine order. This whole setup is considered the engine for every calculation that comes next.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. This is where the whole computer idea really kicks into gear. The system uses a very specific kind of numerology, where you combine chapter numbers and verse counts to get new numbers. And these results, they aren't random. They're used as pointers, creating links to other verses that seem completely unrelated on the surface. So let's do the first calculation together, starting with the poet's side of our scale. You take the chapter number, which is 26, and you add the total number of verses in that chapter, which is 227. Simple math, right? 26 plus 227 gives us 253. Now, the whole point here is that this number is anything but arbitrary.
You see, in this framework, 253 isn't just a sum. It's treated as a coordinate, a precise address that points to a totally different piece of information hidden somewhere else in the Quran. And this is where it takes us. The number 253 is said to point directly to the 3rd verse of the 25th chapter. This link is seen as creating this deliberate, hidden thematic connection between the idea of the poets and a verse about false gods. It's building a hidden network of meaning. Now, to show this isn't just a one-off thing, this system does the exact same thing on the other side of the mizan. For the stories, you take chapter 28, you add its 88 verses, and boom, you get the number 116. And again, this number is treated as a pointer. So that number, 116, directs us to the 6th verse of the 11th chapter, which is a verse all about God's absolute control and how everything is written down in a clear book. So you see this powerful contrast being built. One side of the scale points to falsehood and idols, and the other side points to divine truth and perfect order. But hang on, because these numeric links between verses, that's just the beginning. It's like we've just scratched the surface. From here, the system expands a lot. It tries to pull in universal symbols, cosmology, even ancient architecture, all into one massive unified theory. And this is the centerpiece of that bigger vision, the cosmic clock. This is supposed to be a map that connects everything. It's not telling you the time of day. It's a model that's supposed to map out all of divine knowledge, using the Quran's chapters and numbers as its coordinates. Okay, let's try and unpack this thing. At the 12 o'clock position, you've got Surah Yusuf, which is chapter 12. Makes sense. The key points on the clock, 3, 6, and 9, are linked to what's called the science of the cave from chapter 18. And the math here is seen as reinforcing itself. 12 plus 6 is 18, the chapter of the cave, and 3 plus 9 is 12, the chapter of Yusuf. And at the absolute center of it all, the middle pyramid at Giza, which this theory claims is the physical center of the world's energy grid. And you know those mysterious, isolated letters that open some chapters? The ones that scholars have debated for centuries? Well, this system gives them a surprisingly modern technical definition. The letters Ta, Sin, Meme are decoded as an acronym for, get this, Technical System Management. And it goes even further. They're seen as a schematic for an electrical circuit. Meme is the positive charge, Sin is the negative, and Ta is the ground. It's a wild idea that tries to connect ancient Quranic mysticism directly to modern physics. So you might be asking, what's the point of all this? Where is this all leading? Well, this whole elaborate, coded system is apparently working towards one ultimate goal, a final prophecy that identifies two opposing forces that will supposedly emerge in the end times. And it all comes back to that scale, the mizan. Those two pans end up representing the two sides of this final conflict. On one side, you have the poets, symbolized by the fig, offering knowledge that tastes sweet but is ultimately misleading. On the other, you have the righteous, symbolized by the olive, presenting a truth that might be bitter but is necessary because it connects the Quran to the real world. The prophecy says one group will be followed by the misguided and the other by people of understanding.
And that really leaves us with this one big, lingering idea, doesn't it? This whole framework is just a profound example of that human urge to find hidden layers of meaning in sacred texts. And it forces you to ask a pretty tough question. When you build such a complex mathematical system on top of Scripture, are you just uncovering its deepest hidden truths, or are you actually creating something brand new? It's a fascinating line to think about.